The strikes by Ukrainian defense forces on Moscow and the Moscow region on May 17th demonstrated that Russia is unable to effectively protect even its own capital. This realization sparked a wave of disappointment and criticism among propagandists. This is stated in a report by the Institute for the Study of War. It is noted that the few representatives of the Russian authorities who said anything about the attack were surprisingly restrained in their wording or tried to conceal how many important targets the Ukrainians managed to hit. Thus, according to analysts, Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova criticized the Ukrainian strikes for their alleged impact on the civilian population, without mentioning several successful strikes on Russian defense industry plants and oil infrastructure facilities. And Putin's press secretary Dmitry Peskov somewhat cooled down Russians who were demanding almost a nuclear strike on Ukraine in response to the attack on Moscow. In particular, he said that strikes on Moscow cannot serve as grounds for a nuclear strike. At the same time, the independent Russian media outlet Agency noted a certain taboo around the topic of Ukrainian strikes on Moscow on Russian state propaganda TV channels. Analysts add that a radically opposite situation was observed on Russian ultranationalist channels. Russian bloggers reacting to the Ukrainian strikes on Moscow pointed out the ineffectiveness of Russian air defense, especially in the Moscow region, and complained about the growing strike capabilities of Ukraine. Russian military bloggers have repeatedly emphasized the failures in Russia's air defense and called for retaliatory strikes, since the Kremlin consistently fails to protect or strengthen Russia's rear air defenses, the analyst concluded. The commander of the UAV forces of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, Robert Mater Brody, stated that Ukraine continues to increase strikes on targets deep within Russian territory, particularly on oil and gas industry facilities. According to him, a distance of 2,000 kilometers from the front line is no longer a safe rear area for Russia. He emphasized that one of the key priorities remains oil and gas infrastructure facilities. As is known, during the night of May 17th, a series of powerful explosions occurred in Russia. The strikes targeted several strategic sites in the Moscow region at once. This attack was the largest since the beginning of the full-scale war. On the night of May 16th, it was also noisy in the Stavropol region of Russia. Drones attacked the chemical plant Nevino-Misky Azot. A large-scale fire broke out at the facility. On the night of May 13th, drones also attacked the Krasnodar region. A series of explosions occurred near Anapa and in the Temryok district. After the attack in Taman, a fire broke out near the local seaport. Against this backdrop, Vladimir Putin is frantically replacing the governors of regions bordering Ukraine with generals. The Kremlin is also trying to blame regional officials for failures in border security. This is stated in a report by the Institute for the Study of War. Putin signed as many as 2 decrees stating that the governors of Belgorod and Bryansk regions resigned supposedly of their own accord. According to various political analysts, the Kremlin has actively persecuted and publicly blamed former administrative officials of the Kursk, Belgorod, and Bryansk regions for their own systemic inability to properly respond to the significant Kursk operation of 2024, as well as the numerous Ukrainian cross-border raids that occurred during 2023 and 2024. Analysts believe that Moscow's alleged goal is the reintegration of military personnel into society in Russia, as well as strengthening civil-military relations.